Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the most OP Rafa one-shot build in Borderlands 4, and this will be a level 1 through 50 leveling build as well, so this can take you from the start of the game all the way to the end. Now there's certain items that work really well with Rafa because he's got a few things in his skill tree that greatly boost up the damage. Ricocheting weapons like this are some of the most powerful weapons in Borderlands 4, so we want to take advantage of those because Rafa actually has a lot of skill tree points which can benefit this even further. I'm using the hot slugger weapon right here, but really any Jakobs shotgun that's got multiple charges and can ricochet is going to do a ton of damage. As you can see here with specific class mods, the damage output on this class is insane. Now this is partially due to their skill tree having two really good abilities here. Now one of the first ones that we'll be looking into is the vitriol here, which allows you to get 55% bonus corrosive damage after reloading your gun. So the first shot, if you have a gun that shoots like 1 or 2 pellets at the time and reloads them immediately, you're getting a boost of 55% overall damage. And from this skill tree here, you're also getting another 50% damage with the first impression, which gives the first shot fired from a magazine an additional 50% damage, which is insane how much damage you can output with these two combined together. With items like this, which will chain your Jakobs license parts an additional one time, and also with something like the hot slugger here, which can give you additional 90% extra damage, and then the critical hits will ricochet to multiple enemies, and then also get the bonus 55 and 50% extra damage, paired with something like this item here, which has 3 charges on the heal and gives your next shot an additional 200% damage. This can get pretty crazy when all combined together, and then something like the invincible dancer here, which gives you a plus 40% kinetic damage and action skill cooldown rate, which will further boost up the overall damage of this gun. Although while you're leveling, you're not obviously going to have a lot of legendaries, so look out for anything with 1 or 2 bullets in his magazine. Those are going to be the most optimal. But Rafa's main kit is this Overdrive here, which you can further increase your overall movement speed here. As you can see, we're moving really quickly, even with that pulling me inwards there. And then what this does is going to shoot automatic rockets around at enemies. This pretty much becomes an AFK whenever you have this available and up, but it's better to run around just taking out enemies as quickly as possible while you're in this state of quickened movement speed. Yeah, it does a ton. You do a ton of damage, and then you also got this here, which can shoot out rocket barrages in an area of effect. So yeah, Rafa got some pretty great abilities here that just absolutely shreds down bosses, and he's one of the best users of a few different weapons in this game, so this combines together for some very high power. Now looking at something like this here, this is a boss, and I'm not even powering my character up any, and we're just shredding them down quickly. With those shots chaining around to multiple different targets, you can do so much damage. Now from the top, the very first skill point at level 0 through 5, we want to grab Rinse here, which will increase our overall reload speed. Or go into the red tree, which is actually my preference here because gun damage is just beneficial to anybody here. Giving yourself plus 25% gun damage at the start, 0 to 5, one of the best upgrades for an early level character. This also gives us access to our very first Augment here. Now, if you're playing solo, the Instinto here is going to be better, giving you critical hit damage on your abilities, so this will be better. But if you're playing with friends, this is going to be better because it'll boost your overall magazine ammo regeneration rate for your allies as well, and this will also give you the ability to make your guns take no ammo when you shoot. So this can be good, the Bullet Buddy Deluxe or Instinto, really. You're going to go to another option here once we get a little further down. I also really like to get the Werga here, which whenever you get a critical hit, every 4 seconds, you can basically get an additional charge back of 50% on your action skill. So every 4 seconds, you're probably going to be getting a critical hit, which will regenerate the ability to use your Overdrive and Peacebreaker cannons. For levels 10 through 15, we have a few really good options. So the El Valiente here, dealing increased damage from all sources. The fuller your shields are, the greater this ability. So this can be really nice. I think that there's other choices here that are good. Like dropping the grenade, I don't think this is that great because we're not going to use a grenade. So its damage output is very low. The increased skill damage can be nice, but I think actually the best one is the Resiliencia here, which will give you a damage reduction, and it's actually a funny number, 77.69%, but if we take this all the way up, when we have our action skill active, that's almost 30% damage reduction, which effectively that gives us 30% more health. So with our other skills regenerating our action skill quicker and the movement speed boost that you get from this, and then Overdrive also giving you plus 10% damage and 25% movement speed, which will later be able to increase even further, this becomes really, really effective. Now, once we get down to this level here, it depends where we're going to go first, because if you got a gun that's got a single bullet like the hot slugger there, you want to take this because this will give you the additional corrosive damage up to 55% on the first round after firing. Or if you have any guns that have low magazines and you want to boost up their damage, this is going to be really great. However, we want to go into this skill tree here. For our best augment, I actually think it's this one here with the unmissable missiles. So pressing F while in the Peacebreaker cannons causes them to fire a volley of homing missiles at enemies in view at the cost of action skill duration, so you can further boost up your damage if you know you want to get it down so you can get your action skill recovery back. with certain items, you can actually utilize this really well. Later on, I'll get to the specializations that really benefit from this, but I think this is good for the boost to our damage. The Overdrive will increase your duration of Overdrive, but I think this is better, getting an increase to our splash damage, 35% more splash damage, and we're doing a lot of splash damage with this build, so this is a huge overall boost to our damage. Now I have a skilled mod that gives me the Tamario here, which will give you increased gun damage and decreased gun handling for each stack that you gain, and you'll gain this every second that Overdrive is active and losing all stacks when it ends, so you can actually boost up your damage quite a bit with this, as you'll get a lot out of it. But there's also the Devil May Care, or May Cry. This will give you even further movement speed increases whenever we got our action skill up, which is great because you can run around really quickly with this, and it'll also give us more damage taken whenever our Overdrive is not active, but it'll make it so that we can go into our Overdrive more often. This is kind of a personal preference. If you like the idea of taking more damage and all the negative side effects from not being in Overdrive, but getting it faster and also getting health regeneration, which can proc some of the other abilities like this one here, I would actually probably prefer going with the Tamario here, which can give you plus 60% gun damage at minus 60% gun handling. But with some of the guns that auto aim, that's not a big deal. This also gives us our Capstone here, the volatile hollow points. So our Peacebreaker cans are replaced with rockets that deal splash damage. Again, we're getting some boost to overall splash damage by 35%. So this combines together and gives us a lot of synergy. And the damage is 1,338 per shot. This also gives us the Soltado here, which is a kill skill, doubles all of Overdrive's bonuses. So every time you take an enemy, you're going to get 8 seconds of doubled Overdrive benefits. So that's an extra 20% damage, an extra 50% movement speed. It becomes pretty powerful. Now, I'd recommend, again, we want to take the Vitriol here if you've got a gun that has 1 or 2 bullets in it, because that plus 55% damage is nuts. Next, we're going to go into our people person skill tree here, and the reload speed, as mentioned, is the best choice because being able to reload your gun 20% faster means you're putting out damage more frequently, and with our other abilities that increase their damage after reloads, we're doing a lot of damage. The Thrill is also nice, increasing our fire rate, and with certain guns that can regenerate your bullets whenever you get critical hits, this can be pretty crazy. I got that from a class mod. Regenerating ammo is not really that great, so the increased reload speed is perfect. You can get the Arriba here, which will give you increased Ordnance cooldown rate whenever you kill an enemy, which is actually pretty nice, but I think this one's better. So whenever you reload your gun, which we're going to do often, you gain a stack of action cooldown rate, so this will stack, and you can get plus 15% per stack, so plus 45% action cooldown rate whenever you reload your gun. We're doing that reloading thing often with this, and then this chains perfectly into the first impression, which will give us a plus 50% damage after reloading our gun. Now for our last 3 points, you can get an extra 50% movement speed while you're in your Overdrive from the green tree here, or an additional 9% extra gun damage, which is actually a pretty nice choice here. You can continue down even further into here, which will give you additional 6% gun damage while you're in your Overdrive, but this is mostly for this skill tree, so I'd probably recommend going with the increase of 9% gun damage and a little extra melee damage. It's just a nice extra little touch, but you can go into some of the other skill trees here if you wanted to take like increased damage from all sources, whenever we have our shields at full, if you use a shield that benefits from this. So there's some other skill tree points that you could go with, but I think that works best. This build really works well with the specialization here, 1 shot, 1 kill. So whenever you kill an enemy, the excess damage will be stored and charged to your next gunshot. So that obviously gets really powerful with the amp, further charging that by 200%. You can put out some nuts amounts of damage, especially with the guns that reload and give you all the extra damage on top of it. Also got the Bits Defense here, which will increase the damage dealt based on the fullness of our shield or health. So that gives us plus 30%. If we have full health, which you can easily get because we have our item that heals us, and as long as our shield is full, and I'll be showing off the items in just a moment, we can actually get this plus 30% damage most of the time. Really, this is also nice. Every time we deal gun damage, which we can deal a lot of it because it's going to chain around, you're going to get additional 1% damage per stack, and you get upwards of 50% extra damage. So this further boosts our damage quite a bit. And then this one here now with caffeine works perfectly because whenever we use a Repkit, and we have 3 charges on the one that I'll be showcasing, that's at 25% cooldown per ability. And then you also get additional whenever we reload our gun from our skill tree here. So yeah, you're going to recover your action skill pretty quickly, so you can have almost near uptime, infinite uptime on it. Now, as far as weapons go and items, as I mentioned, you need this healing pack here. This one is the best choice. This also has the high caliber, increasing our projectile speed. If you can get the high caliber 3 for piercing enemies, that's perfect on this build. But this gives 200% extra damage on your next shot after using this item, and it has 3 charges, and that gives you 75% of your action skill back and a huge boost to the overall damage from your hot slugger here. In addition, the critical hit knife is one of the best items in this game. I also like, while leveling, to grab the augmented knife, which gives it, or the one that's going to create a little whirl cloud and pull the enemies around it. That one works really well, especially if you just need to get in close and deal a bunch of damage. But the critical hit one allows this to chain. It's the best choice. In addition to this, I also like to grab a enhancement here, which will increase the amount of ricochets by 1. And it would ideally have like increased shotgun damage or something like that. This is pistol damage, but also the dead eye, which will give you increase. Every critical hit grants 50% critical damage per stack for a maximum of 5 stacks for 10 seconds. So you can get insane amounts of extra critical damage by stacking that up even further, which it obviously pairs well with the knife here. So this is a pretty good option there. I also have this one here, which creates missiles that home in on enemies when we kill targets. So that's why you see that popping a bunch of extra damage around to multiple enemies. The fireworks is a great shield for this build. And then I have here giving us plus 40% kinetic damage and plus 25% cooldown rate on our skill. And then also Overdrive bonuses are increased by 100%. So we got like 100% movement speed when we're Overdrive. And Overdrive also ends whenever our action skill ends. So we don't have it for the 12 seconds anymore. We keep it indefinitely while we have that up. And this also gives us a few different points into our skill trees. Now, as I mentioned, the hot slugger is going to be the best because this gives upwards of plus 90% damage. Every time you reload the gun, you're getting that 105% boost to overall damage, and then all the other benefits as well. And then I also like the plasma coil here, as there's a lot of shock-based weapons or shock-based shields that you have to reduce, so this can be a good option. The Lucian's flank is great, especially with the crit knife, because it restores 2 ammo every time that you get a critical hit, so you can restore your ammo really quickly. And then the liminal kickballer, 2 shotguns isn't ideal, but this one has got a low magazine, but it can chain around to multiple enemies with the Jakobs license accessory, so that puts out quite a bit of damage altogether. And putting this all together into combat, so throwing knife into shotgun does tons of damage, and if there's multiple enemies around, it's going to chain to multiple enemies. So that's one of the best parts about this. And then you can go into your overdrive here to further just blast them with missiles. And as long as you got your throwing knife on the enemy, you're going to get a bunch of critical hits off. So it can do quite a bit of damage, and you also move fast while you're in that. You see there, we just shredded that boss down with just a few clicks, and it also dealt with all the additional enemies that spawn because the bullets will then travel around. So it's crazy, the combination with the Jakobs items in this game. There's a lot of different Jakobs license parts that you can put on weapons or get with on top of your weapons. And then you can also do crazy stuff like that, which you can see there. With this item that chains around to multiple targets, you can do some absurd stuff with it. As long as you got the knife there that does the critical hits, yeah, you're going to get your second wins there. Throw your knife at the target, blast them with that, and you can see there, it's chaining around to multiple enemies, and then, yeah, it can one-shot. There's a great example of it, but be careful, it will take you down really easily. That is with the liminal kickballer here. So the hot slugger, liminal kickballer, I like the plasma coil for shields, Lucian's flank to give yourself the cryo damage, and then also you can pair this with some other things like Burt's Bees, which will auto-aim onto targets. And there's a lot of different purple shotguns you can get that will target around to multiple enemies. So that is the most overpowered Rafa build from levels 1 through 50. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button below. I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.